Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Majoration Podcast, where we talk about all things inspirational, aspirational, and motivational. Today, I have a very special guest. I'm not even going to say the name. I'm going to let him introduce himself because I believe that he's going to give a better introduction than I can ever. But he's someone who is inspiring. He's young, he's talented, he's ambitious, and he is someone that has, I believe, that can share blueprints of success for anyone that's aspiring to be successful in sports, also in life, because we all know that sports is a correlation to how life works as well. So without further ado, Jake, welcome to the Majoration Podcast, my brother. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Major here, the host of the Majoration Podcast. Before we continue on with the interview, I want to share something with you. People are watching the episodes, it's starting to pick up, but I need you guys to actually subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. We're over 800 something subscribers right now. And just remember, one day we're going to be celebrating that we have 1 million subscribers. But right now, our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers, and it's not possible unless you participate and help us. Other than that, thank you so much for joining in to this great conversation. Enjoy the rest of the episode. See you guys at the end of this. God bless. Take care. Peace. And as always, stay motivated.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on, man. You said it perfect. I'm like you said, I'm Jake, and I first and foremost, I'm a believer. So I want to start off by saying that. And second, I indulge in sports a little bit. So it's something that is not my identity, but it is something that I do. And I've been doing it since I was 5 years old, and thank the good Lord that I'm still able to participate in it today as my career.
Nice. I was going to ask you, background wise, do you have any other siblings who participate in sports on a professional level, or are you the only one?
No, I'm the only one. My little brother, he played baseball for, just like me, started young, was very good at it. Some would even say probably a little bit better than I was. He was very gifted. He is very gifted. And he unfortunately had something happen to him physically where, I don't remember the name of it, but he had a disease that it like affects the strength of your bones. And he was a pitcher, a big time pitcher. So he actually threw very, very hard for how young he was at the time going through high school. And he actually got recruited by quite a few schools, ended up going to Tulane, and ended up going from there and transferring to a couple D2 schools. But he ended up having to stop playing because of the disease didn't allow him. It basically couldn't keep up with how much torque he was having with his throwing. And basically, long story short, the doctor said if you keep playing, you're probably going to eventually paralyze yourself. So he was, other than me playing professionally, he was kind of the closest. And if that didn't happen, I very much believe that he would have as well.
Oh, that's unfortunate to hear, and I'm glad that you guys are supportive of each other. I know similar stories for other friends of mine who dealt with some similar issues in regards to siblings had this great talent in something, how life happens, and they went into a different direction. In regards to family, and also just having a faith base in regards to the things you do. Obviously, if you don't know, this is a faith-based type of situation. Everything I do is kind of foundationally based upon my faith and being a believer. How important is that for you as far as your foundation towards the success that you have in family?
You just saw my son there.
I love that.
He's getting ready to go to jiu-jitsu, and I love you guys. I'm gonna leave from here and go watch him kick some guys' butts.
I love it.
But so we are. Yes, I'm a believer, and and it's like I told you before we got on here. I've been following you for quite a few years now, and seeing you being in the position you are and walking your walk and being very vocal about it. It's huge and it's everything. And for me, and like I said, I'm a believer, and I'm very bold with my faith and very bold in my walk. It's the most important thing, right? Above everything. And that's where I think a lot of things kind of go astray in a sense is, and I mentioned it where, my job is not my identity. It's just what I do, right? My identity is in Christ. And I think that's actually something that is very much misunderstood in the body, the body of Christ, because there's so many people that, have these idols and this idolatry of your job or a house or money, all of these different things, and it kind of takes that place above our Father. And I think we need to get back to like that understanding of scripture and getting alone with the Father and spending time in your secret place and getting to know who he is, allowing him to, he already knows you, but you allowing him a place for Holy Spirit to land, and just getting into that word and understanding who he is. And it's everything, and it's going to cultivate and move your life in the ways that it was purposed to be.
Right. No, that's fantastic. And just listening to you speak right now, and this is not to son you. I'm a little older. I'm 47. But when my son speaks, I hope he speaks in that manner as far as
Mm,
understanding, wisdom, and guidance. And that can only lead me to believe that you grew up with some really great parents that kind of put you in the right direction.
mm,
And the reason why I say that is because I come from a sports and entertainment background, and I know how some of those environments can be. Being someone who has grown up in the church, and many people that I know have grown up in the church, when you get around those certain environments, sometimes you splinter. So you've been a professional athlete, someone that's known as a professional athlete.
mm.
That's not who you're defined by, obviously, but public consumption is going to see you as such, right?
Hmm.
In a lot of different ways. How do you and what do you use to stay centered in those particular environments, or do you just give off the illusion that you're not with any of the jobness? Because locker room talk and different influences, guys are single.
Hmm.
So how do you balance those things?
Yeah, I think the short answer is just a consistency of intimacy with the Father. And you know, the more intimate you are in your relationship with the Father, the deeper you're going to go with him, and the aspect of, you the closer that you get to the Father, the more things are exposed in your heart, right? You can't be in his presence because he's holy, right? He's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. You can't be in his presence. The only reason why we are able to be in his presence is because of the blood of Jesus, right? And so the closer that you get to him, these things in your heart get exposed because they need to be exposed, because you can't be there without them being exposed. And so as you get into that intimacy with the Father and you go deeper with him, it kind of just brings you to a place where, like what you're alluding to, of all of the different things with the job and being in the locker room and all of these different aspects that you have to deal with. And it's not just me, right? It's everybody in their own individual career. You have your office space that you have a wide variety of personalities and beliefs and all of these things in the world, right? Everybody's being pulled in their own directions from the world and with the flesh as we understand it in scripture. And I just think that when you have that consistency of intimacy with the Father, it just allows you to make sure that you're kind of always anchored in the, with your, I like to say it as like my heart is always postured in the right direction, which is at the Father. And I feel like when you have that anchored at all times, it doesn't matter what environment you're placed in, the face of Jesus is going to be shown.
Right.
Right, like it's like that old saying of like when you squeeze an orange you get orange juice. Well, if you squeeze me, you're going to get Jesus.
Amen. I love that.
And so
I'm gonna have to put that on a t-shirt.
yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter like how you're squeezed, what's going on around you, what environment you're placed in. Jesus's face is going to shine through me. It's going to shine through my marriage. It's going to shine through my family. Doesn't mean I'm not going to go out on that baseball field and give you a nice butt whooping, but at the end of the day, that when you have that consistency of intimacy, I think that is a good answer to your question.
No, absolutely. That was a great explanation. I appreciate that. So if we wind it back, high school, in middle school, did you know that this is something that you wanted to
Mm.
do? When did you fall in love with this particular sport, or is this the only sport you fell in love with? Did you play multiple sports?
No, I played multiple sports. I was a big football guy, just like a lot of kids are when they're young, and even their whole life growing up. Still one of my favorite sports. I dabbled in football from about 9 years old up until I want to say about like 16. Started playing baseball when I was 5. I played a little bit of basketball, played a little bit of soccer. So I did a little bit of everything. Nothing off the walls or crazy as far as sports, but kind of just those general sports that are kind of very widely known in American sports. And so baseball was kind of something that I always knew I was really good at. Baseball, I actually enjoyed football more than baseball at a young age. And then once I started getting closer to high school, it started getting, you have your little stepping stones, right? And so, as I got deeper into like our like league that we played at, right where I lived at, you have Little League and you have Cal Ripken. So I played in the Cal Ripken League. And as I got deeper into that, we had like our all-star teams, and then our all-star team kind of branched off and created our own travel ball team. And then from there, we were playing in tournaments all summer long. That was where it kind of became a little bit more serious because I was like, man, I really love this. Like, I want to do this, even at a very young age. I remember my father saying, if this is something that you want to pursue, you got to be ready to go all in on it, because baseball is a very tough sport to, be successful in.
Right.
And that's not even, moving just to all the way to the top of the ladder of being a big league player. I mean, it's hard to be successful in at, a high school level, at a college level, a D1 level, a D2, a D3, a JUCO, all of those levels. And then you go to, just getting drafted, signing a professional contract. And then from there, you got to work your way up through the steps of the minor league. So you have all of the levels in the minor leagues, and then boom, God willing, you have the opportunity and the chance to be able to get into the big leagues. And then from there, it's a whole nother stepping ladder. So it's like when you're young, and my father said that it was more of like, hey, this is difficult just to, do good in these travel ball tournaments. And I really understood that because, I was fortunate enough to be around a few different people, players on my team that, I played with a kid by the name of Gavin Sheets. He's actually in the big leagues as well with the White Sox, and his dad played for quite a few years. So we had a little bit of insight of hearing his dad talk about how difficult it was. And then from there, I kind of was like, you know what, I'm going to go all in on this. And so, me and my dad would be in the backyard, and every day he'd get home from work, we'd be in the, throwing, working on pitching, working on hitting my spots with pitching. I was, just like every kid when they're young, everybody's a big pitcher, a big hitter. So you're kind of doing both sides of it. We were in the cage hitting until the sun went down. And then the next day we'd do it all over again. And then we go to all the tournaments. And from there, I started getting recruited at a very young age. I started getting recruiting letters going into my freshman year of high school. And then from there, ended up breaking it down, ended up committing to LSU, and had a chance to get drafted. Told all 30 clubs I wanted to stay and go to school. I didn't want to be swayed by money. I wanted to get that experience. I didn't feel like I was mature enough to go into professional baseball yet. And then I spent 3 years at LSU, was extremely successful, and ended up getting drafted in the second round.
Nice. So I didn't know that you went to LSU. I actually, I went to Louisiana Tech University. So I went to school in Louisiana
okay.
also.
Yeah, I know Louisiana Tech very well.
Yeah, so I used to go up to LSU and play basketball in the intramural, the off season, whatever. I had a good time at LSU. I actually, before I was going into the NBA draft, I didn't make the draft, but I did try for a few teams. But it was 8 of us with the agency I was with, and I think it was 9 of us training. All 8 of them got drafted. I was the only one that being drafted. I was devastated. So I would never forget that moment. But I had a good time training. It was a great experience. Yeah. As you said, there are so many different levels that people don't understand. Even to get a tryout for teams, that says that you have a certain amount of talent to be able to get that far. So that's amazing. It definitely takes a lot of work ethic. When it comes to just understanding the dynamics. So, this is what I want to ask you, because as you said, there are many levels, but do you remember that specific moment when you were either called up or got the word that you were going to go up to the big leagues? Like, how did you process that particular?
Yeah, no, of course. I was, it was in 2019. I was with the Seattle Mariners. So I was drafted by Tampa Bay in the second round. And then I was later traded over to the Seattle Mariners. And then after that, I was in 3 years in Seattle and then traded over to Cincinnati. I've been in Cincinnati now for coming up on 4 years. So I was with Seattle, and we were in Tacoma, Washington. I was in the AAA team, which is the last minor league team before the big leagues. And I had been in AAA for about a little bit less than 2 months, playing really well. I came in to the field, normal day, came in and was getting ready to get all my stuff started. I was actually on my way to the hot tub when I first got to the field. I had some food. I was like, I'll wait off. I'll eat this after I get done in the hot tub. And so I was just in, like leggings, no shirt. I was half naked. And I was walking to the hot tub, and our hitting coach came and got me. He came around the corner as I was getting ready to get in the hot tub. He's like, hey, Skip wants to see you. And I was like, all right, this is weird. I was like, can it wait until I'm done so I can at least go get, finish this and then go get dressed? And he was like, no, you're gonna want to go in there now. And I was like, oh boy, I'm trying to, like, I'm going back through, like, okay, yesterday night's game, did I do anything that was, that I messed up on? I was like, did I miss a sign? I was like going through, I'm like, man, what did I do? And because this guy doesn't really, our skip at the time in Tacoma, he didn't really call guys into the office. It was just very much like, show up, do your job, and as long as you don't do anything like blatantly wrong, like, I'm gonna leave you alone, let you play. And so I'm like, man, and not only that, but he wanted to see me when I'm half naked. I'm like, dude, like, what was going on? And so I walked in the office, and the hitting coach went in there with me, and he was just sitting at his desk, and he had the lineup card in front of him, and he was like, uh, there's because I think they were in Tampa Bay, the big league team, and he was like, "Have you ever been to Tampa Bay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been to Tampa Bay. I was drafted by Tampa Bay." And he knew that. He was just joking around. And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I know, I know." He was like, "The big league club is in Tampa Bay." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, you're gonna have to go pack your bags because you're heading up to Tampa Bay to be with the big league team." And man, I was just like, I started bawling, and we had like a moment, and I was crying. And so I gave him a hug, gave the hitting coach a hug. And then, when I never ended up eating my food that I had waiting there for me because I was way too excited, went outside into the dugout, got dressed, and then made a call to, my agent, my wife, my dad, my parents. I gave a call to my brother, my sister, and all of that. So it was a very cool moment I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Nice. No, that's fantastic. I always like to hear about those defining moments that
Mm,
you would never forget.
yeah.
If you so when it comes to being a professional athlete, one thing I do know what's important is your body,
Mm,
right? Keep your mind strong, keep your spirit strong, but also the body is a very strong proponent, which allows you to continue to do what you're doing. Have you did you understand that early on, or did you kind of understand it a little later? Because when you're younger, we eating burgers, we eating Skittles, and we still look good, can run fast and jump.
yeah. Yeah.
So, did you have good mentorship when it came to that early, or was that something that came a little later?
No, it was definitely later. I was your typical, 18, 20-year old who ate whatever the heck I wanted. I mean, shoot, I remember being at LSU and going to get Subway before the game and going to eat, Taco Bell after, getting a Baja Blast and Gordita Crunch. And man, I'm looking back on it, I'm like, dude, what did I do to my gut? But no, it was definitely later. And actually, if I'm being quite honest, it wasn't until probably about 2 years ago that I got super, serious and wanted to, like, really learn everything that would help me with my career, and obviously, physically with, on the side of nutrition, like you're talking about. And, I actually have, I like to think of Jake Fairley, the corporation, right? I'm Jake Fairley, the corporation with, my job and what I do. And I have a team around me, right? I have developed this team around me. And so part of that team is a dietitian who I've worked with for coming up on 4 years now. Her name is Angie Ashe. And I believe she's out of Nebraska, and she's phenomenal. She's helped me to very very much learn everything that it has to do with how my body operates, what works, what doesn't. We have it dialed down to a T to where I have chefs in spring training. I have chefs in Cincinnati that make my food. They drop it off every week. It is down to we understand at certain points in the season, early on, in the deep middle of the summer, when everything is super hot everywhere we go, and then backing off a little bit at the end of the season because we play so long, where it starts to cool off again when fall hits. As far as caloric intake and what those macros look like, what the total caloric intake looks like, because I'm burning around, middle of the summer when it's hot, I'm burning around 43 to 4,500 calories in a day when I'm playing a game. So if I can meet about that 40 to 4,100 caloric intake, it allows my body to kind of stay in the area that I want from a weight standpoint, which is very vital when it comes to baseball, as far as strength and allowing my muscles to still be in a good place. Because especially for me being an outfielder too, I do a lot of running, right?
Right.
And so I need to make sure that my big muscles are able to be, have that elasticity, obviously have the strength with the muscle fibers to be able to take on the force that goes on throughout the, 9 innings that we play. So all of that stuff allows it to be, that I'm able to do that with those big muscles and with, what my job entails me to do on a night to night basis. And then beyond that, we are diving into, obviously what those meals are. And that's something that I kind of deviate. And I know for you being a very successful, man in yourself and entrepreneur and business, man, there's a lot of things as you learn and as you kind of go in business where if I can alleviate myself of the energy of thinking about things and kind of deviate it to somebody else, I mean, you're talking about, I think of it as like withdrawals, like they're little withdrawals in my brain that I am wasting energy on a daily basis that I don't need to be doing because I have X, Y, and Z that entail me to be fully in with it. And I need to make sure that I have all of my energy that's capable of doing that, right? So I can do those things at the best of my ability. So the actual meals itself, Angie, we've been working together for so long. We've had so many conversations. She knows what I like and what I don't like. So she sets the meals up for the week so that I'm getting the proper nutrition and the proper meals from vegetables. And I eat a lot of red meat. That's a whole nother thing that we could go down as far as cholesterol and like how the, big pharma is just not it as far as what they're telling us and what they're doing to our food. So we have all of that down to a T so that those meals are shown up. I know that they've already been looked at. They're exactly what my body needs to get through, this next week of food or this homestand. And then I'm also getting the caloric intake from the macros into to the total caloric intake to make sure that my body has the energy and also it's keeping on the weight that I need in order to do my job.
No, that's fantastic. That's a great explanation because a lot of people coming up as far as young people, they don't understand the importance of just really having a strategy and being intentional about crafting those things for themselves and also delegating.
Mm.
I, I'm a
That's the word I was trying to think of, delegating. Yes.
I'm a huge delegator, but I had to grow into that because
Yeah.
being a solopreneur, which is what I've
Mm.
been for 20 years, I'm used to kind of being hands-on and doing everything. But I realized if I wanted to scale my success, at some point there's collaboration, there's partnership, and you have to develop some type of system and also
Mm.
team. So it's great to know that you understand that at this particular point in your life, because that's actually going to translate over to the next chapter of your life, even after
Yeah.
this as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good that you're creating those habits now and treating yourself like, as you said, as a corporation, like you're the
Mm.
main thing, because that's going to, translate into other areas after your career. I had this question. I had a series of questions. I put together so many of them, probably only a chance to ask all of them, but if you had to choose between hitting a game-winning home run or making a game-saving catch, which would you choose and why?
Mm. I mean, I got to go with the game. Walk off homer. I got to go with that. I mean, hitting a baseball in the big leagues, man, it is difficult. And it's a lot more difficult than running down a ball in the outfield to make a game-saving catch. Both are equally amazing because you're helping your team win. But man, hitting a baseball in the big league, hitting a baseball in general, and then doing it in the big leagues I mean, it is tough.
Under all the bright lights, under all the pressure
Mm,
every single night, and you guys have to try, you guys not try, you guys have to do that naturally all the
mm,
time. Like
yeah.
people understand the level of pressure that it could be to a lot of people,
Hmm. Absolutely.
but the proper preparation keeps you guys in check, though. And I can tell you guys is really ready and prepared. Um, Baseball players travel a lot.
Mm,
How do you stay grounded and find a sense of home on the road? That's another thing. So I travel a lot, speaking
mm,
and things of that
hmm.
nature. But as you mentioned, you guys seasons are the longest seasons ever. So how do you balance that and find that balance during that time?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's my least favorite part of what I do. Having to travel, we play 162 games and 81 of those days are on the road. And me and my wife were actually just laughing about it. We've been doing this for so long, but it's still something that just blows our minds that, our home residence is here in Florida, but we spend more time outside of Florida. We spend 8 months not at our home resident. That's crazy. And it's tough because we have our home, and obviously I have a wife and two kids, so I have a tremendous home that my wife is such a huge part of that. I want to be around all the time, every day. And I just can't be because of, my career. And again, this is my choice. Nobody's forcing me to do it, but it's something that I love to do. And me and my wife have, very much created an understanding of what are non-negotiables when it comes to how much traveling that I do and how much my job requires of me. Not only for me physically not being there, but also emotionally and mentally. And part of that is just, again, those non-negotiables. So it's really just creating kind of boundaries for us in a sense, where we our longest road trips in a season are usually about 10 games, and usually have about 2 or 3 of those a season. So one of our non-negotiables is if I have a 10-game road trip, unless we absolutely have to because of something that happened with the scheduling or with my kids or something, we always make sure that at least on one leg of that road trip, we're together. I'm fortunate enough to play in a city like Cincinnati where our schedule is really easy compared to other schedules. And I've experienced that with being in Seattle. And we actually have quite a few games, especially in division games, that are just a car ride away, like literally just 2 to 3 hours away. Whenever we are playing there, if there's something going on where it's a little difficult to fly, my wife's jumping in a car and driving to that place, whether it's St. Louis, Chicago, any of those places. And with me being on the road and being alone, I am very much, and we could go into an hour long conversation. More than an hour. I could talk all day about, when it comes to mental performance, and what it means to be elite at what you do. And part of that is me, I schedule my days. I book in my days. I think of it as bookend. So I have an AM, PM routine, and then in the middle of it, I schedule the whole thing. And part of the bookend routine of scheduling is that AM and PM routine are the only parts of my day that I know I have full control over. Right? I don't have any other, person or anything that is from the outside coming into that area for me, right? It's my time. And within that AM and PM routine, while I'm on the road and I'm not with them, I make sure to get quality time with, my wife and with my kids. Whether it ends up being a 20-minute conversation or multiple hours, I make sure that I'm present, and spending that quality time with them. And I think that those handful of things are just some big things that have helped us to do this. We're again talking to my wife. We are just talking about how I'm coming up on 5 years of service time in the big leagues, which is such an accomplishment. It's a tremendous blessing. But we've been doing this for quite a few years. And I think the reason why we've been able to do it with such grace is obviously, because of the grace that is given to us through Jesus, but also because of the type of boundaries that we have created, like what I just talked about.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of it. And one of the biggest things that I champion for a lot of guys, whether it be in sports or entertainment, is just mastering the art of communication.
Mm,
You can nip
yeah.
so much in the bud if you're not afraid to communicate or not afraid to mature and grow in that particular space, because it takes a lot of commitment. It's a lot of wear and tear spiritually. It's a lot of wear and tear psychologically,
Mm,
emotionally, when it comes to these types of choices that we willingly make,
yep. Yep.
to pursue these dreams and opportunities, which afford us, a pretty decent,
Of
surrounding.
course.
But it comes with, some extra stuff as well. I want to have a little fun with you real quick. We probably have like another 5-10 minutes. I know you got to
Mm-hmm.
get to the
Jiu-jitsu.
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yep. What's the most bizarre superstition you've seen in the clubhouse? And be honest, because a lot of people they try to scapegoat this one though. But what have you seen any kind of weird, bizarre superstitions, or do you have any superstitions? I know I had one, but it's all good.
Nah, no, I had a guy, I can't remember his name. This was what year was that? I think it was in 2017 or 2018. I went and played winter ball over in Australia. And there was a guy over there. They have their professional league over there. He's an Australian dude, and he had a thong that he would wear underneath his uniform, and he thought that it helped him to play well and to hit home runs. And I was like, man, to each his own, but dude, there ain't no way you'd ever get me in that. I don't care how many homers you had told me that would help me hit. There ain't no way.
Yeah, that's a hard pass on that one. I have to pass on the home runs if that's the case. That's for sure. Well, Jake, listen, man, I definitely want to, if time permits, I
Mm.
definitely want to double back and do this again. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and just kind of expanding on the questions that I asked you. I think that a lot of people are going to get a chance to know you, kind of know where you stand, and I think it's an amazing inspiration for younger people as well. But before we wrap up, can you kind of share with anyone that has aspirations, that wants to play professional sports, not necessarily baseball, but what it truly takes, and what are some of the disciplines that they can apply,
Mm.
in order to put themselves in the best position to succeed?
Yeah, for sure. And first of all, I would love to come back on. And something that I have a tremendous passion about, which I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna try to make it short, but I would love to come back on and talk a lot about, which is mental performance. Um, and that part of it is what I'm going to kind of stick to with your question, because if so many people, everybody has their dreams and their aspirations, right? Like I had a dream growing up that I wanted to go play in the big leagues. You talked a little bit about how you had a dream you wanted to go play in the NBA. Every kid has a dream, and a majority of kids have a dream to do something in sports. And I don't think that you truly understand what it takes, until you start going through it. Right? It's if you would have asked me even as short ago as me being in college, what it would take to be elite at what you want to do, I would not have a good answer for you. And I think that the statement of talent only gets you so far is very true. And I think talent will get certain individuals further than the next guy. And I think talent will get you further than you think it would, in a lot of cases. But there's 100% going to be a time where talent is no longer going to be what's going to get you where you want to get to. And that's the statement that we've heard so many times. And I think, and what that means is, I don't think a lot of people really go into depth about what that truly means. And that's where that mental performance side comes in. And it's truly just really understanding, okay, what is the best version of Jake Fraley, right? So who am I when I'm when I'm the best version of Jake Fraley, and what does that look like? And if you ask 99% of people, they would not be able to give you an answer. And not just the average person, but also the person that's trying to achieve a goal and working their tail off to do it. And I think that starts with really understanding your principles, right? And there's a statement that says, that little boys live out of preference and men live out of principles. And when you can figure out what those principles are for yourself, and it's literally just breaking it down to like, what are 3 principles that make you your best version of yourself? And then defining those principles, so that you're able to understand in full extent what that truly looks like for you. And then from there, learning about, I talked about it briefly about scheduling, right? And we talked about that concept of delegating, because it is such a real thing where, that withdrawal from your brain every single day, just speaking very briefly about scheduling, like when you wake up in the morning, if you are constantly thinking about what you have to do, I got training, I got nutrition, I got recovery stuff, I have family stuff, I have, I have to work on my skill set, right, to be able to play the game you want to play. So you have all of the training when it comes to your skill set that you have to figure out, and you got multiple people that you're working with, and you got 10 different places you got to be today. You are wasting energy the whole time when you wake up and you're trying to do all that and do it on the fly at the very, at the most. You're just setting yourself up for failure, because by the time that you get to all of these things and it requires you to have the utmost energy and focus to do it at an elite level, you're not going to have it. So being able to schedule your entire day the night before you wake up, going into, the nutrition side, right? Like eat, sleep, and movement are the most vital things when it comes to you as an athlete, and being able to dive into what that looks like from a nutritional standpoint. And 10 times out of 10, or I wouldn't say 10, 9 times out of 10, you don't have the knowledge. You have to go to somebody who has the knowledge to learn about it. And so most likely you're going to have to hire somebody onto your team, and that's okay. You need to have a team around you to make everything work at the level that it needs to click at. And then from there, going into, being able to understand what, meditation looks like, right? And so, like for me, meditation, a form of meditation is getting alone with the Father. It's getting in that secret place with the Lord and understanding who my Father is and who He says I am, and learning about who He is and getting to the Scriptures. And then from there, taking that meditation and turning it into like breathing exercises. So before I go into competition, I take time to, use my breath that I've been blessed with in order for me to get to a place where I'm kind of in that tranquil, relaxed space, clear head. And I do visualization. So visualizing for your sport. And I think those are just a few of things when it comes to mental performance that takes you to that place where you can become the best version of yourself and also be elite at what you do. Because when you get to these places where you're at the top of the chain at what you do, right? Like I have 30 teams in the big leagues and I play right field for one of those 30 teams. So I have 29. I am one of 30 guys that are at that position. And I have millions of kids around the world, and every year you got a new generation that's born. And, once they get to a time in their, 5 years old, they start playing ball. These kids, everybody's working to get that one job that I have. And I'm trying to keep it for as long as I can.
Right.
And that entails, that's a job that takes care of my family. That puts the roof over our head, right? In a sense that, the Lord puts the roof over our head through those things. And when I can understand that, Scripture tells us to do our job well, to do it with everything that we have. And I think that we need to really sit down and take that to heart. Like this, if this is what you're going to do, you really need to go all in on it. And every time that you think you've made it or you're doing enough, you're not. There's always something that you can get better at. There's always something that you can go deeper into, get more detail into. And I think that, again, without going down a whole rabbit hole of mental performance, I think that's kind of a gist of kind of what that looks like. And quite honestly, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. I'm coming up on 8 years since I've signed professionally. I have 5 years of big league time. And I really just started learning this stuff about 3 years ago.
I love it. Well, that is the most amazing explanation ever. We probably have like 10, 15 seconds left, but I'm going to use that and share that all over the place. But we have to double back and do that with the mental aspect of it because
No.
that's the whole creation of Majoravation. It's a mindset, it's a movement, it's a community. So I would love to dive deeper.